youngest child recently. It's called Let's Count. It's basically you play this game, and it's
Let's play!
and it basically teaches you how to count. You sort of go through it, you get through. And it's pretty simple, but again, for a young child, this could actually be something that's quite influential. This and other types of apps are pitched as educational. But just this week, an influential group filed complaints with the Federal Trade Commission, arguing that this and many other apps, they're not what they claim to be.
E. F. G.
Jody Fratz is a busy mom of 3, and sometimes she knows she can rely on these simple apps to help 20-month-old Steger have some fun.
QRS.
Makers of these apps say they're not only fun, but also educational, with claims like teaches numbers and counting 1 to 10, first words, and action-reaction.
If we're choosing, I'd rather have an educational app than something that's just empty calories.
But the consumer advocacy group, Campaign for Commercial-Free Childhood, says the education angle is false advertising, and they filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission on Wednesday.
It's kind of like the Wild West out there, and there needs to be some kind of regulation of the claims that they make.
Previous complaints from the same group led to Disney withdrawing claims about the popular Baby Einstein series, and also a $180 million settlement from another toy maker.
It's not fair to parents to claim that something's educational when, in fact, there's no evidence that it is.
According to the campaign, there have been nearly 3 million downloads of Fisher-Price's Laugh and Learn apps. In an email statement to CNN, Fisher-Price said, "Development of our toys begins with one goal, to create age-appropriate toys for the ways children play, discover, and grow. Open solutions." They also stood by their product in an email, telling CNN, "We think we have apps that can help parents with babies, either by entertaining babies or helping them to see new things, animals, hear their sounds, etc."
You feel a little less guilty about letting them use it if it's something educational, but I don't think anyone thinks it's a substitute for parents and teachers.
And joining me now is Dr. Ari Brown, back to the show. She's a pediatrician and author of the Baby 411 series. Back in 2011, she actually wrote the American Academy of Pediatrics position paper, which advised no screen time at all for children younger than 2. I have small children. I paid attention to that paper. Welcome back to the show, Doctor.
Thanks so much for having me.
So what do you make of these claims about the fact that these apps are educational, and then this complaint about the fact that there's no evidence of that?
Well, I think the complaint stems from the fact that it's important to have truth in advertising. And truthfully, we don't have any science that shows that these products are educational. So parents need to be informed consumers about what they're purchasing and whether we know whether they're educational or not. And the answer is, the truth is, we don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. I guess when you look at these things like Baby Einstein and stuff, I always sort of assume it's not going to make my kid an Einstein, obviously, but could it, is it helpful at all?
And that's a great question, and unfortunately, technology goes a lot faster than the pace of science. And so researchers are looking at that very question right now. Does interactive media have a role in educating our kids, particularly our youngest kids?
And, you know, and it is changing fast. I mean, a lot of these apps are very new. I mean, I have 3 young girls, as I mentioned, and a lot of these apps weren't around when they were younger. Is there a different concern about the impact of these kinds of apps on children's development? I mean, you've written about screen time before. What about these iPad apps?
Well, you know, when the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with the policy statement in 2011, when that policy statement was written, iPads didn't even exist. And so we were really looking at passive media use, so screen time for kids where they were sitting watching a televised program, whether it would be on a traditional TV screen or on a smaller tablet screen. And what we knew then was that there was no benefit educationally for that type of a program, and there was a concern for risk. But when it comes to interactive media, you know, nobody knows that answer. There may be a benefit. The one thing I can say that's really important for families to know is that although these things can be virtual approximations of games that we all played as kids, and things that, you know, maybe kids can learn phonics and maybe kids can learn math skills and such, but you're never going to be able to replace the ability for a child to learn by putting 2 blocks in her hand. You know, put 2 blocks in your daughter's hands and let her figure out how to stack them on top of each other. And kids really need that unstructured playtime to stimulate problem-solving skills and creativity. And they also need social interaction, and talking to mom and dad and watching mom and dad is tremendously powerful.
You know, it's interesting because one of my youngest right now has this game where she, on her iPad, where she matches all the states. Then she has a puzzle as well where she actually puts the states into the right position on the map. And it's interesting, I'm curious, because I thought the iPad app did a lot of that, but the actual tactile, putting the blocks together, may make a bigger difference. You know, let me ask you this, because a lot of parents out there, myself included, the science isn't there yet. So what do you tell the parents, the parents of your patients when they ask, should I let my kids play with these apps now? What is the right answer?
The take-home message for parents is this, is everything in moderation. So if you are going to let your child spend some time doing an interactive app, make sure they're not spending too much time in front of a screen, and make sure that they're having a healthy balance of other activities.
I think that's always good advice. We try to do our best as parents, but sometimes those screens are just, they're so tempting to give us a little bit more time. But Dr. Brown, I appreciate your time. Thank you.